Hi, Hayden here, and in this video I'm going to be replacing basically the drain pipe on my bathroom sink. And the reason I'm doing that is because, you know, this isn't anything off the wall, but this is like a lot of corrosion on here. And the reason for that, again, is like we do heavy duty cleaning, and when we clean stuff, we clean to keep. And unfortunately now we've cleaned so hard we can't keep these. That's just funny. That's all I got, folks. Anyways, so what we had been hoping to do is that we could just replace this part, which actually looked pretty good. You know, these didn't look too incredibly bad in our not so humble opinions, but we really just wanted to replace the ring. And but unfortunately we have to replace the whole thing. And I had just bought the ring and this previously, and that was not going to work. So we had to buy the new tube with the whole thing. The problem is this thing here has to go into the hole of the sink from above. And in order to do that, you have to be able to remove the top part. So this part has to remove, which ironically this one does. Now this is a plastic tube. It's a chrome plated plastic, and this is a plastic top, which has a chrome plated ring around it. Now, you know, that's like kind of cheap to me and all that, but this baby's, you know, it looks like it's brass. Okay, so the problem with the metal is this metal does unscrew from this. It's the only way in the world you can get this thing in. The problem with metal on metal is it tends to fuse, and there is just no way I was going to be able to remove this from my sink without destroying a whole lot of things, probably including my sink. So I really didn't want to do that. We want to make sure that the sink is serviceable and available. So in order to do that, I actually had to use my little trusty hacksaw. Nobody should be without a little tiny hacksaw. And sorry for the noise there. But anyways, I had to hacksaw the thing off because this part of it with the with this little valve thing that sticks out. Yeah, it's brass. See that? So anyways, but this one part that sticks out was just simply not going to be able to be removed in any easy way. And yeah, I tend to clean my hands a lot. So with that, we got to figure out a way to get this thing in. And the way to do that is actually to go up from underneath and kind of stick this thing through the hole. Now, the other part of the issue is that ring sits right there in the hole. I may have to clean this out a little bit more to make sure that that fits. There, oh, it actually fits very well. I don't know, you can't see that. Let's see if I can raise the whole camera up a little bit maybe. There, that fits in the hole very, very well. That's excellent. That's absolutely awesome. The problem is the way I just put it in there, it's going to leak. And the reason it's going to leak is because we need to have some kind of a grommet in there or something like that. And we don't really have that. What we do have is plumber's tape, or plumber's putty. I want to mention all this crud around here is actually probably leftover plumber's putty and other things of that nature that were used in the installation of that particular unit. But plumber's putty is, that's this little device right here. It's kind of like, you think of it like silly putty or Play-Doh or something like that. Hopefully it's not skunked. It should basically look like that. It should not be green or brown or anything else, unless it's some kind of a color thing. And basically you just play around with it and you get it nice and mushy and malleable, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word for that. My mastering of the English language is not that good. But anyway, so we mix up some plumber's putty, and then we put a ring around that hole, around the whole hole, right? So we put a ring of plumber's putty right here where this yellow discoloration kind of thing is, and we put that plumber's putty there, and then we seat the, or actually we could put it around here, you know, around this lip, all right? And then seat that in there nice and tight. And plumber's putty will ooze out. That's fine. What you really want is to get that good seal to make it watertight. And then once that's in place, then I can basically screw this pipe in from below. However, what I'm probably going to do is get this pipe set up, oriented in the right direction. You know what? It really depends on how this thing's going to work. It should work to where this thing ends up oriented in the right direction. I'll let you know when I come back from that. But the first things first, get my plumber's putty ready to go, get everything set up and seated up, and then make the connections. I have another one of these because this is a two sink situation here. And once I get this in place and I kind of know better what it is I'm doing and how I did it, then I'll go ahead and come back and show you with the other one that's still in the package. I'll show you what it is, how I did, and why I did it that way. So with that, hang on, I'll be right back with more discussion of how this happened, all right? So hang on. All right, Ray Hayden here, back, and hopefully we have a successful installation. I have some plumber's putty oozing out from below the grommet on top, and the sink is overfilled with water, and I see you can indeed see the new drain down there. What I'm testing here is the overflow. There's a hole. Sorry. All right, there's a hole in the front of the sink that allows, in case you forgot about the water and you get back to it in time, you can shut it off before it gets all over your floor. Also, it will sink, it'll drain out through the regular drain. It's like an overflow thing, goes like a sink within a sink kind of thing, and it'll drain out successfully. But what I'm also testing here is my effort. So overflow is working fine. And now, I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the video, hopefully. Well, you certainly see the water drain out. And you'll hear it drain out. It's got that nice little whirlpool. No clogs here. Okay, so this was pretty much a success. And the painter's putty, okay, that I pull out here, that's fine. There will be some overflow. You can't get it perfectly in there. You don't want to. You want a little bit of overflow because it's really well seated in there. And then underneath the sink, there is that one. This is not it. It's actually a black one. But there's actually a nut in there that you tighten up underneath. That sucks this whole thing down. It pulls the drain thing down on it, and then you just tighten that up, and you can come back and finger tighten it. Don't over tighten that, but finger tighten it as well as you can, and then that should be a well seated sink drain. What I do is I have to do the leak test. I always test for leaks 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks out, and periodically, or every time we clean underneath the sinks, or anytime we clean the bathroom areas, my wife and I, we check for leaks constantly, because water is an insidious problem. It will find a way, any way it possibly can, to cause damage to your house. And you want to really prevent that. And the only way to prevent that is give, the Mark 1 eyeball, they call it. Do the inspection on the whatever it be. It'd be your sinks, your toilets, your bathtubs, your showers, whatever it is that you have water coming into. Washing machines and dryers are really bad, because if those water lines burst or rupture, it is a nightmare, and it happens fast. So make sure that you always check for leaks every time you're around whatever device it is you're looking at. We keep basically paper towel underneath there for about a week or so, maybe 2 weeks. We keep the paper towel on there because if water hits a paper towel, you know that it happened. Even if it was a little drip and it dried up, you'll see that the water hit the paper towel. And it's just a really good way for us to check. Basically, if you had newspaper, maybe a newspaper would, but I want to take ink and get it on my bottom of my cabinets. And so anyways, this is a success. I installed the new the rod going down here. That's the new rod. This is the old one. And we connected everything up. So that's good. And now I have to do it the same thing in the other sink on the other side. Now it took me a few minutes to do this. And I would take this, I would put this on a level of a 3 or a 4 because it was a real pain in the neck. And the reason why it was a real pain in the keister, shall we say, is because this piece of metal where this indent is right here, this did, when it was new 20 years ago, this unscrewed. So you could just drop it in or push up. This part here pushes up from underneath, and just this top cap, okay, sits on top, and that goes on top, and then this screws into it. But metal on metal tends to fuse together really tightly, and you're never getting that apart. So again, with the hacksaw, I had to cut those pieces off. That was a real pain in the neck. I expected to have this done yesterday, but that wasn't going to happen because of the hacksaw part. And listen, laying down on the floor, and the cabinet sits up a couple of inches off the floor, so you're laying on that. It's causing pain. It's cutting off blood flow, and it's just painful. And the next day, when I woke up this morning, I was hurting because I was using all my muscles not to be hurt from the lip of the cabinet floor there. So with that, That's a successful change of a sink drain pipe from underneath. There are other parts of the pipe that you need to have, and this is actually the drain trap. This one here I'm going to have to clean out a little bit. There's some gunk down in there. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to clean this one out a little bit. I'll bleach it up and all that and make sure it's nice and clean. This is plastic as well, and bleach comes in plastic bottles, so that's not going to be an issue. But there's some, it looks like, oddly enough, it looks like leftover painter's putty or something that was in there. But I'll go ahead and clean this up and make it nice and tight, and we'll be cooking with gas on the other one as well. So with that, again, this is only a level 3 because, you know, there's some corrective action you need to take underneath. The sink is a bowl. You have to reach up under and get behind it to get to the different parts of it that you need to adjust. And when you make an adjustment, you need to come back out from under the sink and test it and make sure everything's good. Like when you pull up on this stick, you don't want to be pulling up on the stick and have it come out. That means you have to go back in and tighten something up underneath. These connections are really goofy underneath there anyway, and this is that thing you would have to connect, you would have to tighten up. This one here came with a thumb screw on it somewhere. I don't know where it went. Oh, here it is. Oh boy, and that's a small thumb screw. Okay, that's a tiny thumb screw. You're gonna be expected to tighten this thing up just finger tight, really, because you're not gonna be able to do anything else. The new one came with a screw nut. Came with a little I use my little stubby. I'm not a big fan of these because you really can't get torque on them for some reason. And plus you're underneath the sink, upside down and backwards. So it's a real pain to get this thing in there, and it really has to be situated in one specific direction for you to do that. And there's a little bit of play action in here. That's the one thing. You want to make sure it's tight enough so you can't pull the thing out, right? There's a bit of a pain in the neck. So that's why I would make this a 3. And of course, cutting these things off was just a nightmare for me because it was like upside down backwards and everything with a tiny hacksaw, and it takes a while to get through that. Even though the hacksaw is a very good hacksaw, it still took me a while to get through with it. But anyway, so that's it for this particular update and repair, and I am going to have a whole bunch of different home update, improvement, correction things coming out through all of 2018. It's just going to happen. I'm not ready to talk about it in fine detail just yet, but as we get along, as we move forward, you're going to see me doing a whole bunch of inside the house, outside the house, different types of things that we're going to be working on. So with that, until I catch you in the next video, take care and be well.